1, 2, 3, 4.
Screen time, screen time, screen time, screen time.
It's my screen time too.
Screen time, screen time.
Hello, and welcome to It's My Screen Time Too, the podcast where we've spent the past 8 years reviewing the programming the other critics ignore, stuff made for kids. Together, we've found what to watch for family movie night, what to avoid altogether, and what you'll want to watch alone voluntarily. I'm Deborah.
And I'm Katie.
And I have 3 kids who are 15, 12, and 12.
And I have 2 kids who are 6 and 9. You may have guessed from the altered tone of our intro, but today's the day, dear listeners, we say goodbye to our careers as children's media critics. This will be our final episode of It's My Screen Time Too. I'm not crying. You're crying. We started this podcast 8 years ago with little kids and babies and a whole lot of anxiety about screen time. We wondered how much was too much for our kids' growing brains. We wondered how much other mommies would judge us for whatever screen time we did give our kids. Maybe most importantly, we wondered how we would survive sitting through endless hours of what we were sure would be joyless dreck in order to fulfill our roles as engaged parents. Now we've got big kids and teenagers. We navigated the minefield of Paw Patrol reruns and Sanctimommies. It's no longer which kids movie will we watch for movie night this weekend. It's just which movie will we watch? To the extent that Primetime TV still exists, there are a lot of nights where we can just watch whatever's on with our kids. No mediation by Disney or Nickelodeon necessary. Our mission at It's My Screen Time Too, to find quality kids movies and TV to spare parents the pain of watching the crappy stuff, has started to feel less relevant to our lives, so it feels like a natural time to say goodbye.
We want to leave you with our top 5 shows and movies, the real gems we've unearthed over our 218 episodes together. I'm going to start. My number 5, Katie, you might be surprised by this because we only gave this a 3 each when we reviewed it back in 2019, and it's a movie from 2008. From our time when we weren't necessarily reviewing like the most current things streaming or in theaters. But my number 5 is Bolt. I've watched it a bunch of times over the years with my kids. It's an easy, fun watch that might not be on newer parents' radars. And there's a lovely Jenny Lewis song on the soundtrack. John Travolta voices Bolt. And I'll just read you the quick logline. Bolt is the star of the biggest show in Hollywood. The problem is he thinks it's real. After he's accidentally shipped to New York City, he's determined to unleash his mind-blowing superpowers to defeat evil and find a way home. Along the way, Bolt and his hilarious sidekicks learn that they don't need superpowers to be heroes.
I think this is a really great pick because it introduced us to one of our favorite voice actors really early on in the run of the show, and that's Grey Delisle. And we went on to find her in all sorts of things going forward, and it really introduced us to the idea that voice actors are some of the hardest workers in Hollywood. Like, their resumes are just incredible and so long.
Totally.
So that's really fun. And I have not revisited this movie, but I also think it is another good exemplar of how things worked early in the podcast. Like, we were so stingy. And then as time moved on, we definitely loosened up and we started giving more and more high ratings. It's kind of like how I used to be with my Netflix. Like, did you like this, or how many stars will you give this? I used to be like, oh, I could only give it 5 stars if it was truly cinema.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh yeah, 5 stars for Bridgerton all the way.
Well, our tastes have definitely changed over the years and maybe widened acceptability of what we appreciate in kids shows.
Okay, so my number 5 was also from really early in our run. And I know it's not on your top 5, but my top 5 was Shaun the Sheep, which, if you remember, is an Aardman stop motion animation series. It's mostly told without dialogue. And it's the story of a little sheep named Shaun and his life on the farm and all sorts of antics he and his fellow sheep get up to, usually involving the dog on the farm or the farmer himself. Stop motion animation is a format that I love. I know it's not a format that you love, but it was my first opportunity to really share something that I was excited with from a kid's TV and movie perspective with you and with our listening audience. A chance to genuinely share my enthusiasm, and I really appreciated that. So that goes for my number 5. Still could definitely watch. Interestingly enough, the kids and I were in a Lush Cosmetics store the other day. Do you have those out by you?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and they have like a Shaun the Sheep collab going right now with like little
funny.
like Shaun the Sheep bath bars and soaps and everything. And I just thought that was a weird moment of unintentional synergy.
Yeah, totally. That's funny.
All right, what's your number 4?
Ted Ed. I have 2 YouTube channels on this top 5 list, which
How
is so
hip are
surprising.
you?
Because YouTube is something we haven't really enjoyed. We spent one summer a long time ago trying to find good stuff on YouTube. But Ted Ed is it. And I promise it's better than anything else your kid has ever watched on YouTube. Their mission is to create lessons worth sharing. It's a little bit eat your vegetables screen time, but totally fun and educational and well done. And like follow it and give it ratings, because then I think that helps curate your feed.
I think too, it does have some videos that don't have that eat your vegetables feeling. Like sometimes when my kids ask, you know, how does such and such a thing work? There is like a cartoony version that doesn't feel like you're watching a history class.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 goes in a very different direction. I was so overwhelmed when we started this project because we've done so many episodes that initially I thought I would try and pick one from like each year. And I know we have 8 years and only 5 in our top 5, but I was really trying to limit myself based on time periods. So that
I was trying to do that too.
Yeah. But then like there are some years that we had a ton of good stuff and some whole years that were just a bust. I don't know how we made it through. So my number 4 is a remake. It's a remake, not a reboot. How have I been doing this as long as I have, and I still have to like think and pause the difference between those two words? Anyway, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power on Netflix. I think it is a great example of a remake that really works. It's an truly innovative take on an old property that can charitably be called of its time. And I revisited it fairly recently, like within the past year, and it was still super fun.
Nice. That's a good one. I hesitated on that one.
It also makes me sad that we never got around to reviewing Nimona, because I know that was by the same creator and it was supposed to be really good. And I think it just kind of fell in that weird uncanny valley of maybe it was too grown up for my kids. And at the same time, your kids weren't really sitting down to watch full length animated movies with you anymore. So it slipped through the cracks. And I'm embarrassed to say I still haven't seen it. So here is a reminder that She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is a really fun show and that we should all go back and check out Nimona.
My number 3 is Mitchell's versus the Machines, a 2021 movie on Netflix that we reviewed with our podcast friend, Julia Washington. We were guests on her podcast. I think her podcast has transitioned to a business called Pros and Glow in Modesto, California. So you should check that out. She sells, among the things that she does, she sells really cute note cards. And she helped us review this movie. The logline is a robot apocalypse put the brakes on their cross-country road trip. Now it's up to the Mitchells, the world's weirdest family, to save the human race. It stars Danny McBride, who's funny, although I don't always enjoy his adult products on HBO. Abby Jacobson, and we all love Maya Rudolph so much, and she's in it too. And this is a fun one. Like, my kids like they'll still bring this movie up once in a while, and the animation is super fun. It's a good one.
Yeah, this one was really fun. Way to go to include one of our episodes with Julia, because she was always such a great co-host. And I still find myself thinking about dog, loaf of bread, dog, loaf of bread, dog, loaf of bread, because my dog looks nothing like a loaf of bread in coloring, but he does have very short legs. So I do often think of that. My number 3 was Dora and the Lost City of Gold, which I realize I'm now including just a ridiculous number of reboots and remakes, but that's also of a piece with our show, right? Like, it ended up being so many of those just because we're millennials and they were recycling all the millennial properties from when we were children for us to either enjoy or be infuriated by with our own children. But Dora in the Lost City of Gold, we watched at a time that, like, neither of us had been Dora preschool consumers, really. So while we knew that this was based on Dora the Explorer, a preschool Nickelodeon property, neither of us were very attached to it, but we were still, I think, so charmed by the movie and found it really unexpected and funny. And that meme with Michael Pena at the rave will be my most shared YouTube clip of all time for my entire life, world without end. There is no doubt. So please, grown-ups, if you want to laugh and a fun family movie, highly recommend. That said, also highly recommend Mitchell's and the Machines. They're both great. These number 3s are amazing.
Yeah, I loved Dora. Totally loved it so much. My number 2 is Kid Cosmic, a cartoon series from Craig McCracken that we reviewed with our friend from the I'm a Muslim and That's Okay podcast, Shella. And it's such a fun show. It's so funny. The characters are so well drawn. It's really fast paced, which one of my kids who has ADHD really enjoyed. My kids have watched this one a bunch on their own. I don't even think I've watched the last season of it. And that's a really fun one.
Yeah.
Classic, like 25-minute episodes. Great for family screen time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it has an appropriately weighty role for a very large cat. I was a little worried about recency bias with my number 2 pick, but then I just went with it. My number 2 is Curses, Apple TV Plus animated series that we just reviewed this past spooky season, so this past October, even though it has had 2 seasons of the show. And it was just one of those things that I was totally surprised by. My kids happened to be at a really good place to be venturing into spooky content. And it's the story of this family working together to return all these cursed objects to the places where they belong. So you get like a nice mix of world mythologies and like a nice introduction to a lot of different places without it feeling education-y in the way that, say, something like Carmen Sandiego might. It was just a good time, I think, and I am anxiously awaiting the 3rd season, which I hope they end up doing.
Nice. Okay, number 1 is for me another YouTube channel, if you can believe it. I'm going with Art for Kids Hub. Classic, super fun YouTube channel that is interactive because you can draw along with the dad and kid who are showing you how to draw all kinds of different fun characters and critters, some like branded content, some not. I haven't done this one in a long time, but I have like many happy memories of sitting down and watching Art for Kids Hub and drawing with my kids. And I also really love the dad's rapport with the kids, his own kids on the show, because he's like, clearly he's a professional artist. His kids are not. And he like is so encouraging and fun and happy. And he's like, oh, look what you did. I love how you did that. And it's just like, it's just fun on its face, but it's also like helpful to watch a parent interact with their kid in such like a nice, organic and wholesome way as like a modeling tool, sort of. So that's a favorite, but that's not like my number one. There's so many ties. We've watched so many good things.
I know. It was really hard to pick. I also love Art for Kids Hub. My kids occasionally have used it at school, so it is a tool that like is out there in the ether for a lot of people, I think. I love that you've included 2 YouTube channels on here. One other YouTube channel is going to make it into my honorable mentions, but my number one is not a YouTube channel, and it's also not the one you're expecting me to say, but I went with my heart and not my head. So my number one pick is Puffin Rock.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is just this beautiful, peaceful preschool TV show on Netflix that feels like a warm blanket. It's a family of puffins that live on this small island, mostly told about the character of Una, who is like the older sister in this puffin family, and her adventures on the island with all her other friends there. There are wonderful lessons taught in a non-cloying way with characters you just want to hug. In addition to some seriously wonderful voice narration by Chris O'Dowd. I would have another baby just so I could watch this show with them. I mean, I think the ship has sailed. Definitely a solidly preschool show. There's no way that like my 9 or 6-year-old would sit through it anymore, but just my heart swells with fond memories. So Puffin Rock,
that's a good one.
On Netflix. It's been a while, so I know it's below the radar now, but you will not regret checking it out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, give me your honorable mentions. What do you got?
Well, we always watch holiday movies, and some favorites of mine were Jingle Jangle and Klaus, both of which I think are on Netflix. Those are good ones that are like classics now in my house. Paddington 2, loved that movie. I was also going to say Dora and the Lost City of Gold. And then all 3 Zombies movies, which I never ever would have watched without you and the podcast. I enjoyed them. Another kind of YouTube throwback, Cosmic Kids Yoga. That was really fun.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one too when you were talking about Art for Kids Hub. It's the same sort of honest interaction with the audience, and Jamie doesn't interact with actual kids during her videos, but she has the same kind of respectful tone when she's doing even ridiculous things like the Trolls movie through yoga poses. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. What are your honorable mentions?
Well, I did not put the Zombies movies on here, even though you know I love them. The one that I put on here more as an exemplar of our annual Disney Channel original movie watching, which has been a summer tradition for us pretty much since we started the podcast. So I put the first one we watched on here, which was Teen Beach Movie. To me, not as good as the Zombies franchise, but it definitely got us rolling on the, okay, once a year we need to dip back into this well. And I'm so glad we did, because it gave me all sorts of fun, nostalgic feelings about my own childhood. And it introduced me to, I think, a lot of movies that I wouldn't otherwise have watched.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Totally. And I think we watched that one like before our kids, definitely before your kids were even ready for a movie like that.
Yeah, for sure. It was a nice, like, oh, this can still sometimes be for us.
Yeah, totally.
And of course, one that I think was really warring for my number one spot, because you know I love it, because every time we ever had to do a rerun and post something because we couldn't get an episode out on time, it was always Numberblocks. I love Numberblocks so much. I didn't put it on my top 5 because it is very explicitly an educational show, and so not necessarily something I would ever sit down and watch just as a brain break. But as far as educational content goes, I can't think of anything better. So great.
Mm-hmm.
And that is available on Netflix, as well as it has a robust YouTube presence. The other one that I thought, in terms of something that could just be for us, that I don't think I ever really properly watched with either of my kids, was Apple and Onion. Do you remember that one?
That one is a fun one. It's so absurd, and I love it.
Yeah, a totally random pick from us. I think about that scene of the two characters on the subway, and one of them is Jell-O, and when the subway train stops abruptly, the other one is just subsumed into the Jell-O.
It's so good.
Not quite as much as the Dora and the rave scene, but I do still think about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, there you have it. There are our top fives and our honorable mentions. So many more great things we've watched over the years, and it was definitely hard to narrow it down, but we did our best for you listeners. I thought we would just include some final advice to stressed out parents from, pretty much the other side of the screen time gulf, at least the screen time for young kids gulf. So my thoughts were this, Deborah, and please just chime in with whatever you might like to add. Just that parents, you should co-view when you can. You should totally not stress out if you have to put your kids in front of Miss Rachel or similar in order for you to get dinner made. And mostly talk about it. Engage with your kids, even if it's something that doesn't interest you. Even maybe especially if it's something that they've watched that you haven't watched with them. Just open up that dialogue, and that'll go a long way towards making you feel like screen time is less a failure on your part and more something you're actively engaging in.
Those are great guidelines and great parting words of advice.
Oh.
So we wanted to do a quick segment on co-hosting together because our favorite thing about the podcast has always been getting to hang out together. Katie, do you have any memories of your co-host, me, to share?
So many, but mostly it's a vibe. And I wrote this down because I was worried that I would cry if I just said it off the dome. So please forgive me while I read off this page and also still maybe cry. So when we first started this podcast, I was so sure that you were going to be the cool mom. And I knew how smart and funny you were. And because of our time at grad school together, and I worried I wouldn't be able to keep up with your biting commentary. But I soon came to see this whole other warm, generous side of you. And I want to thank you more than anything for reminding me to approach things from a place of kindness. And I really do think that was something that I was often lacking. And I'm just grateful to you for having that influence in my life. So thanks.
Oh, Katie, that's so heartfelt and nice. Thank you so much.
Bup, Copperwood.
Bup. Okay, I don't have a specific memory. I just think that it's time to peel back the Wizard of Oz curtain for just a second. I don't think people know what it takes to produce a podcast, and Katie has been producing 218 episodes. She's totally self-taught. It involves a lot of technical work with audio editing software, recording devices, cables, microphones, WAV files, MP3 files. We started out on Skype, which is no longer a thing anymore, which felt kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense for us to end this. She's transitioned us from SoundCloud, which if you tell somebody now that you hosted a podcast on SoundCloud, you're established as somebody who's been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
To Buzzsprout, she's gone to conferences, she's done marketing work. It's so much. And I'm so grateful for you to putting in all of those behind the scenes producing hours, because it's been so fun to have this podcast. And We've heard from listeners who've really enjoyed it over the years, and I think it's been a nice space for us to air all of our concerns and our love for the movies and shows our kids love to watch and that we sometimes love to watch with them.
Thank you, Deborah. That's so kind. We have one very important final evergreen question to answer, and that is, which one of us would John Cho play in the gritty HBO reboot of our podcast?
That's such a funny question. Do you want John Cho to play you?
I think, do you remember before the most recent Bob Dylan movie starring Timothée Chalamet, there was like this Bob Dylan movie that came out where there were like a half dozen different actors and they were all playing Bob Dylan?
Yeah.
I think we just do like a switcheroony, and because we record this on Zoom, so it's a split screen, we don't like appear in many podcasts together with the exception of our annual Pink Wine podcast. I think we could have John Cho play both of us in the gritty HBO version of our podcast.
Or in the sped up, like the TikTok videos where like the TikTok star like puts on a hat.
Yes.
And then,
Even better.
Takes off the hat and like ducks it himself as a different character.
Yep. It could be glasses. Like when he's wearing glasses, he's Deborah. And when he's not wearing glasses and just squinting at things, he's Katie.
I like it. And also how funny, like I don't even know how that started, but like how did John Cho become like the patron Saint Hollywood star of our podcast?
I know. You know what? Very, very soon it will be possible for us to just ask AI to go through 218 sound files and find the first mention of John Cho. But this will be a good timestamp when I'm telling you listeners that the technology isn't freely available to us to do that yet. Thanks for listening to the finale episode of It's My Screen Time Too. Whether you're a longtime listener or have only found us recently, thanks for being part of our community of parents for sanity and screen time. Don't worry, you will still be able to find our episodes as well as our fantastic limited series Spock Talk wherever you get your podcasts. We're sure you haven't heard The Last of Us. We are always brainstorming new podcast ideas, and you'll be the first to know when we've got something new in the works. Until then, thanks for listening to our real talk about the movies and TV we watch with our kids because we have to, and sometimes because we like to. Bye!
Bye.
Screen time! Screen time! Screen time!
My screen time.